Hey everyone, it's Mike. We are still back here at the Nokia Theater. First off, we want to apologize for some of the technical difficulties we've had here. We've had some internet problems, as happens in the modern age, but we look forward to getting the full and, I should say, fast-paced interviews up soon with both John and Mark. And we spent a lot of time today talking about the Disco Biscuits' future, their new album, their new tours, what they're planning on doing tonight for the rest of the run. But right now, we're going to look back on the Disco Biscuits' history here with their archivist. As we said before, tomorrow is the 10th anniversary of the Hot Air Balloon, which many consider one of the greatest jam band rock operas ever. Can you talk a little bit about both that run and kind of where the Biscuits were at that point? Because many people don't know, the Biscuits weren't always as electronic as they are now.
Sure, sure. Yeah, they debuted the Hot Air Balloon opera in New Year's '98. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but been there every year since.
We don't fault you for it.
Yeah. Yeah, John Gutwillig, our guitarist, started writing songs for the opera in summer of '98, and they sort of debuted throughout the year, and then eventually they were unveiled as a whole masterpiece on New Year's. They played in a small diner in Philadelphia. I think there were probably about 100 people there, and it was a wild time.
Yeah.
The pieces are, pretty complex compositionally. Very classically influenced. The first piece is called the Overture. It's a traditional overture for an opera, and it follows the story of a man who creates a hot air balloon.
Right. Now, many people, I'm sure, are curious about how one becomes an archivist for a band. I mean, many people might be aware, but a lot of the Disco Biscuit, a lot of the Grateful Dead's archival recordings are actually chosen by their archivists, and similarly for Fish. How did you first get involved with the Biscuits and kind of assume this role?
I started off as a big fan. I was going to lots of shows in '97, '98, and the guy who was being the archivist before, Brett Dawson, he moved to Australia. And so I had been very involved with, this was right when we started, E-Tree started to explode. Lots of people were setting up servers, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and it sort of has grown from there over the years.
So is there somewhere on some computer a file that has all the Disco Biscuits past recordings?
I've been working on it lately, actually. I've been working on transferring all the old tapes and been going through everything lately, actually. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours of material.
What's the earliest recording, would you say, that's kind of
Well, in the past year, I've uncovered some stuff from, I think the earliest tape is from February of '95, and that was before they were the Disco Biscuits. They used to be called Zex C.
Wow.
And that's before Aaron Magner joined the band. And there's a lot of covers, a lot of old Fish songs, Allman Brothers, and some Grateful Dead. But it's really interesting, though, to see as things have developed and how they, created their own style. And it's been really exciting to go through the old stuff lately.
So when you say you uncovered it, was it kind of lying in a box somewhere, looking for someone to put it on the computer?
It sounds funny, but yeah, that's essentially what happened. There had been this fabled shoebox full of old tapes, and someone moved recently, and the box was discovered, and then it's been we've been working through transferring old stuff.
Yeah, I think the Grateful Dead had a similar thing where someone on a houseboat, they had some shoebox full of old tapes and actually released it. So it's cool what you'll find, hidden under somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the recordings are in rough shape, but I hope to one day put out a best of kind of sampler. That'd be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people would really find that interesting.
And we'll let you go get ready for the show tonight. But you assume you're watching spot. But one last question: when you say that the band was Zexy and no Aaron Magner, did they have a keyboardist at that time?
Yeah, there was a guy named Ben Hayflick, who I've never met. He's disappeared from the scene a long time ago.
The proverbial lost member of a band.
Yes, yeah. But I believe Aaron began in sometime in, I think, in late spring of '95. The Disco Biscuits actually officially became the Disco Biscuits July 4th weekend, '95.
Wow.
So a little bit before then, Aaron joined.
Cool. Well, we'll let you get ready for the show.
Great.
We'll be back in a few minutes with the next producer from the Disco Biscuits' next album. You've heard a lot about him today. His name is Harry. He is based in Philadelphia. He's worked with all sorts of great hip-hop producers, and he's going to come and talk to us a little bit about what the Disco Biscuits are on store for the next album. And actually, right before we do that, we're going to hear of someone who, I have to say, knows more about the Disco Biscuits than almost anybody. He's worked with Mark specifically in a lot of different capacities. Back in the day, he was just a good friend of his. He's been a fan. He's written about them. He's interviewed them. And most recently, he actually started an organization with Mark, which is Headcount, which has now blossomed to something completely different. It's registering people at concerts to vote. They have a great network of people, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that right now. So, how did you first meet Mark? Because I know many people know your connection as friends and now coworkers.
We had a mutual friend growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and I went over to my friend's house, and he was like the younger kid there
Hmm.
with a high squeaky voice.
And years later, you guys have
He
a
has a
huge voter
much deeper
organization group.
voice.
Yeah. Now, many people don't know this probably, but I've seen the Disco Biscuits. Actually, tonight will be my 99th time, so I've seen them a lot. And the first time I ever heard about them, I think, was in '97, and it was because a book that you wrote. You wrote a little bit about them, and the kind of the upcoming band section of the Farmer's Almanac, which you co-authored. You had a little blurb on them. So that was the first time I heard about the Disco Biscuits.
Yeah, we were doing a book. It's ancient history now, but the Farmer's Almanac, a book about fish. And in our second volume, we had a section called "From the Bottom,"
Hmm.
where we listed up and coming bands. So this was 1996, and there was Mo and Strange Folk and the Ominous Sea Pods, and there were 10 bands, 9 of whom were sort of well known, kind of known nationally, and then we snuck in the Disco Biscuits, who were still just playing in Philly pretty much.
Right.
And we kind of kept it secret that we knew each other because we didn't want it to seem not legit.
And as a fan reading the book, like we see your place next to all those bands who I had heard about on fish message boards or at clubs, they felt like they were like of the equal stature. So you did a good job sneaking them in there. And yeah.
And they're still
Yeah.
trying to be of equal stature. But, it's funny, at the time, the scene was just totally different. It hadn't really started yet. There weren't like websites like jambands.com or something like that. So it was fairly narrow where people were getting information about bands. So a book about fish with a listing of 10 bands could actually really have a big impact on the bands. And all of those bands over the years have told us that in that era, people would come to their shows all the time and say, I heard about you in the Farmer's Almanac. And it was great to play a role at the beginning. I mean, we loved the music. We believed in the Biscuits. Like all of Mark's friends, all the people around the band at the very beginning, like we heard amazing music and we're like, wait, is it just sounds this good because he's our friend? Or is it really this good? And history has shown that it really is this good. And, go from that to Five Nights at the Nokia.
And I know you're someone who's used to having these sort of headsets on. You have a long history in sports journalism. At what point did you and Mark decide to form Headcount? And can you talk a little bit about how it's grown since then?
Well, it was now over 5 years ago, and it was a time when a lot of people were really asking themselves, what can I do? And Mark and I had both been talking about really how outraged we were at what was happening in the world. And then the idea just one day hit me. I said, well, what we can do is if we get everybody who's going to shows in our scene to vote, that's the difference we can make. And we don't need to tell them how to vote. We don't need to tell them what we think. What we need to do is just make sure there's an apparatus there to get people engaged. And that was very late 2003. First year, we registered close to 50,000 voters. And then this year, 2008, we registered over 100,000 voters, which was our goal. And did it at a completely different level, I think a more professional way. And we're excited for the future. The next steps for Headcount is all about civic engagement and having our community's voice heard, building political awareness, making our scene a scene that makes a difference in the world around us. Because I think we can do that.
So could we expect to see Headcount tables at concerts throughout the next couple of years until the next big election?
Oh, absolutely. But it will be more to do than just register to vote. Probably the first thing we'll do is we'll have postcards that are pre-printed where you can pick an issue and send it to your congressperson. But that's just one of many examples of things we'll do that just make it easy and fun to be part of the process. I mean, my belief is that our community, our music world, our values are really positive, and we have the power between the musicians and the incredible influence they have and just the raw number of people who go to these shows and the passion that's here. We can channel this to something really positive, and that's going to be Headcount's job over the next few years.
So, looking back a little bit, obviously you guys grew very organically. I think one of the reasons it works so naturally is people, learn to trust these bands and, listen to what they say and get involved and whatnot. Who is the first, I guess, musician outside the Disco Biscuits that you guys reached out to get involved?
It was Al Schneer. Mark went to Al, and then Al went to Bobby Weir. And from
Great
there,
connection, yeah.
yeah, from there it really took off, and now involves, of course, Dave Matthews. It involves Jack Johnson is a big supporter. But it really started here. It started in this scene. It started with this family, and the Biscuits scene continues to play a very important role in Headcount.
Cool. Well, looking ahead, we're going to go watch the Disco Biscuits get ready, let Andy get ready for the show tonight, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, thanks. Okay. Cool. Cool. All right, cool. Well, before we go on with our next interview, which will be Dave Van, he's going to come get ready for us. Dave's been a long-time photographer. We want to address why this might not look as clear as it should and will in the future when we continue to do this at shows. Like all sorts of improvisational things, sometimes when you try something new, there's some technical difficulties that you can't foresee. And unfortunately, the internet, even though it is a theater, the internet is a little bit slow, so we are not is coming out as clearly as possible. But we assure you that as things go on, we keep doing these, the internet quality will be a lot quicker, a lot faster, and also we will put up all these interviews we just did in their original form, which will be a lot clearer and quicker. So we're excited to have Dave Van as our next person out here. Dave has been shooting the Disco Biscuits for many, many years, so he's seen them on all sorts of angles, from on stage, in the pit, backstage, all over the place. When did you first shoot the Disco Biscuits?
I think the first year was probably 2001. I think Fish was playing in Cal Expo, or no, actually Shoreline, and then the Biscuits did like a little run around there, and then I think I caught them. I think they played the Fillmore, and then went up to Eugene and a couple of other places up the coast.
Now I know you've you're known for shooting not only like great shots from the stage, but also candid shots and portraits and whatnot. When it comes to shooting a band like the Disco Biscuits, is there anything that you like keep in mind, like that you have to shoot from certain angles, or any certain lenses and sort of tech stuff that maybe people who aren't photographers might not be familiar with?
I mean, you just kind of have to go with the moment. I mean, depending on the situation. As far as shooting the band, you just have to find them when they're in a good mood, they're comfortable, and just kind of getting the timing right. Every year at Camp Bisco, for the last few years, I've been able to do a portrait booth backstage, and it's just a matter of like getting the band when they're comfortable, like between sets or after show, and you kind of just go with how it feels.
And I know you've shot a lot of different people, and I think you're shooting people while you're in New York here. Who are some of the other bands that you're shooting right now, people to be excited about?
I'm actually shooting My Morning Jacket on New Year's at Madison Square Garden. Love the Biscuits, but I'm going to do the Jacket show on New Year's.
And Dave has been here, I know for a fact, since the 26th, shooting all over the place. So expect to see his shots in magazines and online soon.
And just did Caribbean Holidays a little bit ago with Biscuits and Humphreys, obviously. And then after this, I'm heading down to Florida for the Jam Cruise, which I photograph every year.
Oh, cool. Now, in terms of like your own photography background, did you study photography growing up and in college or whatnot?
I did. I got my BFA in photography and actually applied to do an ongoing photo essay on the Grateful Dead and the subculture, and got it approved back in the day through Dennis McNally. And that's how I started taking photos. Was taking photos of the Grateful Dead in 1992.
Cool. And so you've shot on a lot of Grateful Dead shows then, I assume, as well?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, I probably had photo passes for 20, 25 shows, but the Grateful Dead actually had an open camera policy, which is very rare. So even if you didn't have a photo pass back in the day, you could still bring in your professional gear. So I would always bring in my gear. And that kind of lit the spark, and then continued on taking photos of, Fish and a lot of other bands. I mean, in the past 5 to 7 years, I've moved on to shooting a lot of festivals for different magazines and websites. So with shooting the festivals, you get a much broader range of all different kinds of artists.
Now, in terms of something, especially like a festival where you're shooting a lot of different stages, a lot of different bands, you kind of go the whole time. Like, do you usually go work with the festival and be like, okay, I am going to shoot these 4 bands today and work with the other photographers, or do you kind of just go where you think the action's going to be?
I kind of go with where I think the action's going to be, and I honestly usually am driven by my taste on the bands that I like. And, editorially, I mean, usually the editors that I'm working with, sometimes if there's something in particular they want, I'll make sure to dial in and get it. But usually it kind of works out, and a lot of times there's another photographer you're working with, so you can kind of split things up.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, in terms of the festivals, do you have a favorite one?
I like all the different festivals for their different aspects. I mean, everything from, it seems like, the festival circuit sort of follows summer wherever you are. Like Langerato's the first festival out of the gate where, it's like, the summer sun, and then, Coachella, and then Bonnaroo, Rothbury, Lollapalooza, Austin City Limits, and so basically I end up
the
getting
whole calendar year,
yeah. So I end up getting like 6 months of summer in, which is nice.
So you have a good tan all year long, basically.
I don't know about that. Lots of sunscreen and whatever, but I have a good time.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the Disco Biscuits, you shot them. I know both at festivals. You shot them at the Caribbean Holidays. Obviously, a lot of shows and festivals. Where you say is the coolest place you've got to shoot them? I know maybe in Jamaica you've gone to some pretty cool places like the Bob Marley Museum and whatnot with Mark.
Yeah, last year went on a day trip with Mark and a bunch of people to the Bob Marley Museum and actually got to go do a couple cool shoots, which was really fun. And Camp Bisco is really fun every year, and then getting some candids around this. I mean, it kind of just it depends, but I'd say probably Camp Bisco just because it's nice. They usually have the full setup with soft boxes and lights, which gives it a little bit more of
Of a vibe. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And
The band gets into it a little bit more.
yeah, I mean, I think that like maybe people don't realize that like when you're shooting a band, you shoot them in all different ways, like, and it's not just like, oh, let me go and they're on stage, I'll take a picture. You have to figure out like lighting and positions and whatnot.
Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, you have you kind of know what you're doing, but then you have to sort of wing it in certain situations.
Improvise, as they say.
Just like this, the internet wasn't up,
Right.
and you kind of do what you can to make it work, and it's the same sort of thing with photography. You always have to just kind of wing it and make it up as you go along.
And as they said again, for you guys just tuning in, we want to apologize if there's a little bit of a delay in some of the signal, if it's a little choppy, and we kind of look like we're walking on the moon here. We're trying this out for the first time. The Disco Biscuits have been with Relics since '97 when they were on the Verge column, and they've gone all the way to the cover in 2005, and. We've tried a lot of different stuff with them. So this might be a little bit shaky now, but we assure you that both in the future we'll be doing these, and there'll be a lot better internet signal, and also that you'll be able to see these interviews in their full form without some amount of a delay. So, Dave.
How does it feel now, bitch?
Yeah.
How's it feel now?
we have Aaron Wagner here, people.
Yeah. Later. How's it feel now? Woo!
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Wagner taking a photo of Dave Van. Now, this is the most rare thing you'll see all night. Yes. Want to straight in? Aaron Wagner, how you doing? How you doing, man?
Good, sir. Pretty good.
So you're getting ready for the show tonight.
I am getting
Yes.
ready for the show tonight. I've already had some vomit on.
You have some pre-show rituals that involve vomit, maybe? Yep.
No, maybe in my twilight years.
Yes.
Pre-show rituals that involve some vomit, but right now, little Aaliyah Brownstein vomited.
That's very cute and quaint. Yeah.
I mean,
Put your headset on.
until you smell it, and then hey, how about
Yeah.
that? Yeah, and then she was like, "I puked on you." So it was adorable, and I couldn't say much.
So for all you people that think this rock star stories go back here, there is kids and fun and family and all that stuff.
We got a playroom going on back there.
Exactly. Well, we've talked to a bunch of the guys in the band tonight about the new album, and one thing we haven't heard is your role in it. I know you obviously play keyboards and probably sing on it. Did you do any writing for this album as well, or are you mostly behind the scenes in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was really a collective process, which was definitely a first for us. When we first started the album, everybody kind of just like brought in ideas, So I brought in like a bunch of ideas that I was doing on my home computer. For instance, like Air Song, which we play live and probably won't make the final cut on the album, now that it's been like such a staple of our live set. Like that I kind of started at home, came in, Brownstein put a bass line on it, wrote a bridge to it, and, like that kind of started the process of the first time that we were collectively writing these songs together.
Right.
Like one person likes to keep different studio hours than another, so, like I'd come in at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and John, was there from, 2 a.m. to 10 a.m.
It's a 24-hour operation in a sense, yeah. One thing Mark was saying actually before is that like when you guys go to like write the actual credits for the album, there's gonna be like a whole list of people who wrote beats or produced it or whatnot. It's a whole
it's gonna be like reading War and Peace.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it'll be a whole novel. So right now we're gonna bring on one of the other people who actually has worked on the album. Do you want to come and sit with us here? Yeah, cool. Well, Aaron, do you want to actually introduce your friend here, since many people probably have never seen him before, but he's a big part of the new sounds.
Absolutely, and a good friend of ours now.
Yeah.
This is Dirty Harry, everybody.
Yeah.
Hello.
Who I think just kind of popped onto the scene in Jamaica. Got a good hang-in with us and our fans in Jamaica. You met a bunch of our fans.
Yeah,
in Jamaica, right?
definitely. I feel like part of the family now.
It's funny, I think I did an interview with you guys about 2 years ago, and you had never even heard the Disco Biscuits at that point.
Right.
And here it is now, you've written a whole album with them.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience, So it's been cool. I mean, we basically just started out. Our studio was across the hall from their studio. And we just ended up hanging out just on a friend level, and then we just started making music, and it was just really organic process. It was not like industry, like, oh, I'm gonna come here now, or it was really loose and fun, and we really enjoyed the process.
Which you're used to on the industry side.
Yeah. I'm used
Beyonce
to
says,
professional.
I need 30 songs, and I don't see Harry for 3 weeks, and he comes up with 130 songs.
I think it was either John or Mark who described it as like a hit factory in a sense. Like
Yeah.
Use the old term, and that you guys have to crank these out. And here you get to really spend a couple of years years working on it and making sure they come out really smoothly.
It's
and,
definitely a different
producing it.
process. Yeah, definitely. But it's been really fun. It's like really collaborative, and it's cool because no one really has a set thing about what they do. Like, there's no rules to anything. So Aaron might be singing a lyric. He might write a keyboard line. I might play a keyboard line. John might sing. We might, we switch it up a lot. So it's definitely interesting, and we've all been able to like have a good input into the album. So that's basically it. And I hope the fans enjoy it. It's definitely different than.
I hope it comes out.
I hope it comes out.
Yes.
That's the first thing.
It's
and
coming.
I hope the
I
fans
swear.
enjoy it.
That and the Pac Northwest. I swear.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but since you guys did, I remember when I did the interview with you guys in 2006. The last quote Mark said is that I promise it'll come out before Chinese Democracy. And I think they got about 2 months or 3 months on you
ironic.
guys.
Now the Disco Biscuits are the
Almost.
only people in the country not getting a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
So who are some of the other people you've worked with over the years?
I've worked. Well, the first big record we ever did was for Ludacris, and we actually won a Grammy for that. That was pretty cool.
At
And
18 years old, this kid won a
17,
Grammy.
actually.
17.
And worked with Usher, Chris Brown, Outkast, Beanie Siegel, this new MC Wale, developing a lot of our own artists, and just a lot of people, man. Who else we work with? The Game, Lil Wayne. 50 Cent. So
were you familiar with, I guess, what people call jam band music at all at the point when you guys met these guys?
yeah,
or?
well, I'm like a big rock music fan. I never was really too into the jam band scene. So it's funny, when I first met Mark, he was like, yeah, like we love Fish, and I was like, really? Like, I thought Fish sucks, but then he played me some Fish shit, and I was like, oh, this is cool,
Yeah.
So it's like a gradual process of like just learning a new experience, but you can't get too much different from like Chris Brown to the Disco Biscuits. So.
Right.
And I was doing both of them in the same day, so it was pretty interesting.
I mean, I guess for you, what was the process like of adding your own, fingerprint to these tracks without turning them into, Chris Brown tracks?
Well, some of them did get turned into Chris Brown tracks, and we had to be like, let's go back a little bit.
Right.
But I
But
mean,
on the
it's
same
basically
token, it goes the other way as well, Like,
Right.
Harry will call me up and be like, yo, man, I'm on a deadline. Madonna needs 4 beats, Like,
Right.
I've got a couple of grooves. Can you help me out and, like, work on them? And so, like, I did something for him and sent it to him. And he's like, they're good, but I don't think that's what they're looking for. And what they ended up being used for was, we played those grooves a few times on, like, the last tour, you know? So,
Right, exactly. So, and it's definitely like with the technology that we have in the studio now, it's like I can make a loop in my bedroom and send it to them, and they can work on it. And it's like the technology is amazing. So we'll all just be getting, like, me and John would do stuff at his apartment and bring it in, all different types of stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting. And actually, it's pretty strange because I'm like singing and helping writing songs on the album, which is something that I never would do with someone like Beyonce, for instance. So that's definitely like a new experience too, and a great learning experience. And I brought like a lot of other people who are doing music in Philly, like people from the Roots crew, and this new cat Two Face, who I think performed with them the other night here, which I heard went really good, and just basically trying to get a big mix of different styles and inspiration. So,
have you seen the band live at this point?
yes, I've seen. This is probably like my 12th show or something like
So I
that.
guess, knowing these guys so well and working with them in the studio and writing with them and, almost living together in this space.
Yeah.
The first time you saw them live, what, jumped out at you that maybe you had no idea?
Well, I was start off as like a jazz drummer because my dad is a jazz piano player, and when I started playing, I was like, wow, this is interesting because they have these formats and then they go off into these basically improvised sections, which is exactly what jazz is, and they switch it around, and so I was like, wow, this is it's like jazz but jam music. So I guess that's the whole focus of the jam band scene. But it's like nothing else I ever heard, and really I think it wasn't until like the third or fourth show where I was like really like impressed and amazed by it, because I've seen them practice in the studio and being with them like in a room this size with them playing, it's like I got like my hands in the air and it's like fucking amazing. But seeing them like live with the crowd interactions is definitely really cool. But I was surprised because I knew them like on a personal level, and I came to shows and people had like Disco Biscuit tattoos and people would come up and get autographs and stuff, so that was kind of like interesting, definitely. But yeah, man, it was a great process, and hopefully we'll be able to finish this thing and get it the fuck out there.
we're almost there, dude.
We're almost there.
Cool, guys. We are really
Heck
excited
yeah.
for the new album to come out soon. We're excited for the winter tour, which is going to begin in January in Northampton. We're really excited for tonight. So Happy New Year's to everyone at home. Once again, we want to apologize for some of the technical difficulties we faced today, but this interview will be up in its full stream capacity soon, and we're also going to have a bunch of other great interviews recorded today, which unfortunately we couldn't do live, up right soon. So be sure to check out relics.com, relics.com/radio, and be sure to check out the Disco Biscuits here at the Nokia Theater. Thanks very much. Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year's, guys. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.